places that are difficult to get to hide the great secrets of forgotten civilizations. Antarctica researchers are battling harsh working conditions in a cold climate and are literally wresting finds from the hands of the past, giving us a reason to doubt what is written in the textbooks of the history of the ancient world. What has been hiding behind the snows of the icy continent all this time? You are on the KirTop channel. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Monster remains. Researchers battling brutal Antarctic conditions for decades have discovered the fossilized remains of an elasmosaurus. These were the real titans of the Cretaceous period who lived with dinosaurs. Scientists have discovered most of the skeleton of this giant, though there was no head, but even without it, they concluded this beast weighed from 11.8 to 14.8 tons and was about 12 meters long. Can you imagine? For comparison, earlier they found elasmosaurs weighing about 5 tons and the genus Aristonectes up to 11 tons. However, until the end, scientists are not sure which genus our giant belongs to. Perhaps it is an unknown genus. And here's something else that's interesting. This marine giant lived about 30,000 years before the extinction of the dinosaurs, which supports the theory that elasmosaurs lived in the late Cretaceous period. Lakes under the ice. In total, more than 400 subglacial lakes have already been found in Antarctica, and each of them has been isolated from the rest of the world and the atmosphere for millions of years. And this means that life there can be completely unique and ancient. Scientists have already drilled 2 small lakes and discovered microbial life. But what happens in the big lakes remains a mystery. After all, there is no sunlight, so microbes cannot use photosynthesis. In order for life to be more diverse, the water in the lake must move so that nutrients and oxygen are evenly distributed. On the surface of the Earth, this is done by the wind and the sun. Under the ice, geothermal heat rising from the Earth's interior can serve as a source of heat and movement. This heat is able to create currents in subglacial lakes, stirring up the water and making it more hospitable to life. Icefish colony. A group of scientists broke through a thick layer of ice and lowered the camera half a kilometer down. They saw tens of thousands of round nests, each about the diameter of a bicycle wheel, and in each nest lives one adult fish, guarding more than 2,000 of their future children. Cameras filmed more than 12,000 of these fish. The total spawning area is about 240 square kilometers. These fish are called ice fish because of their unique ability to endure extreme cold. Their blood contains special substances similar to antifreeze, which allows them to live in the harsh conditions of Antarctica. As you can see, despite the cold, life in Antarctica is in full swing. Dinosaur Road. At Dewar's Farm Quarry in Oxfordshire, UK, scientists have unearthed about 200 dinosaur footprints dating back more than 166 million years. An international team from the universities of Oxford and Birmingham studied the site in June 2024, trying to understand how the ancient dinosaurs moved and interacted with each other. Of particular interest were 5 main tracks, which form a kind of dino trail. 4 of them belong to large herbivorous sauropods, including Cetiosaurus, a dinosaur related to Diplodocus up to 18 meters long. Another chain was left by an approximately 9-meter Megalosaurus, a formidable predator with 3-fingered clawed paws. In one area, the tracks of a herbivore and a predator intersected in the mud, which provides a unique chance to find out whether their paths could have crossed not only in time, but also in space. Paleontologists note the excellent condition of the fossilized footprints. The prints show deformations of the soil under the weight of the paws. This allows us to estimate the size of the dinosaurs and recreate the conditions of the ancient lagoon, which was filled with traces of burrows, shells, and plant remains. To record all the details, the researchers took 20,000 photographs and created 3D models using drones. UFO landing pad. Gary Dixon, 62, from Flint, Wales, was driving to Llangollen when he was caught by a 15-meter white circular disc slowly rotating on the surface of the River Dee in Denbighshire. He was so intrigued by this unusual object that he decided to walk a few kilometers to study it closer. The disc was perfectly round and rotated counterclockwise, creating the impression of a mysterious natural phenomenon. Gary, who was planning to spend a winter day in Llangollen, was so fascinated by what he saw that he stayed to watch it for about half an hour. According to his observations, the disc made 1 rotation per hour. Ice discs, as it turns out, are not uncommon. This natural phenomenon is observed all over the world, from Russia and China to Scandinavia and North America. The first recorded sighting of an ice disk was in 1895 in the USA on the Mayan River in Connecticut. In recent years, such natural formations have attracted attention due to their impressive size. For example, in January 2019, a 100-meter-wide ice disk was discovered on the Prehistoric River in Maine. But an even more impressive case occurred in Canada, where a giant rotating disk with a diameter of 200 meters was spotted on the Tarim River, which was captured by satellite lenses. These unique ice formations have received different names: ice circles, frying pans, and carousels. The mystery of the Antarctic monolith. In 2020, in a remote part of Antarctica, at a depth of more than 2 kilometers, researchers discovered a mysterious object which was named the Antarctic monolith. This object, which is a rectangular stone slab about 3 meters high and 1.5 meters wide, was found using sub-ice radar used to map the landscape under the ice sheet. The strangest thing began when scientists began to study the monolith. The surface of the stone was covered with complex geometric patterns and petroglyphs that were strangely similar to ancient symbols found in different parts of the world, including South America, Africa, and Asia. Analysis of the material showed that the stone has no analogs among the known rocks of Antarctica, which means that it came here from another place. In addition, the monolith had unusual magnetic properties. Instruments recorded a weak but constant magnetic field around it. Near the monolith, charred remains of organic material were found that scientists believe could be ancient plants or even remains of living creatures that lived millions of years ago. These organic materials trapped in ice could provide unique information about the ancient ecosystem of Antarctica when it was part of the supercontinent Gondwana. Some researchers suggest that this could be the trace of an advanced civilization that existed long before humans appeared. Others claim that it is potential evidence of contact with extraterrestrial beings. Pyramids. A group of researchers have discovered in Antarctica none other than 3 pyramids, and it seems that they were created not by nature but by the hands of our distant ancestors. Antarctica is now the edge of the world covered in ice, but once it was an oasis full of life where even dinosaurs walked, and our finds there are proof of this. In total, 8 researchers from America and Europe went on the expedition. They found 2 pyramids 16 kilometers from the coast, and the third right by the water. The question arises, why don't we hear about it in the news? Many argue that this information is hidden so that we are not distracted from the usual idea of the past. What will we see when the glaciers melt? Could it be that under the ice, in addition to the pyramids, another sphinx is hiding? What do you think about it? Write your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Mummified penguins. Chinese researchers have discovered a graveyard of mummified penguins in Antarctica, and many of them were just chicks. At first, scientists thought that the penguins did not survive 2 periods of extreme rainfall. But penguins live in Antarctica and are used to cold and snow, so something doesn't quite fit here. Now scientists are suggesting that climate change is to blame for these massive penguin deaths. In their opinion, the humidification of the climate caused by global warming could have led to this tragedy. The penguins, as it turned out, were not ready for such conditions and immediately died. This happened twice, about 750 and 200 years ago. Scientists figured this out using radiocarbon dating, and it seems that the penguins did not die immediately but gradually. Ancient egg. This stone potato measures 20 by 30 centimeters and has been lying in the frozen earth, for 68 million years. That is, its time is the time of the dinosaurs. This object was fraught with many mysteries and it was simply called this thing. But one day, a researcher suggested that it could be the egg of an ancient creature. It would seem nonsense. An egg without bones inside and such a gigantic size. It was a Mosasaurus egg, a terrible sea monster, 17 meters long and weighing about 15 tons. Scientists came to this conclusion when they discovered the skeletons of small mosasaurs nearby. This egg was unusual. It was more like a giant plastic bag that the cubs could easily tear. Underwater, it was deformed and petrified, so the egg turned out so unusual. Huge crater. Researchers in Antarctica have discovered a huge crater, and most likely it was left by an asteroid. And who knows, maybe it was this cosmic collision that influenced the evolution of dinosaurs. Scientists believe that the effect of an asteroid in Antarctica was even cooler than the one that destroyed the dinosaurs. This may have led to the catastrophic destruction of the time. The disaster took many lives, but as it turned out, it not only took away, but also gave. This crater, over 300 miles wide, was created by a huge asteroid about 250 million years ago. Scientists think that it was this fall of an asteroid that could become one of the reasons for the global extinction of species on Earth. But at the same time, this catastrophe could create the conditions for the appearance of dinosaurs. As a result of this horror, one of the winners was the Archosaurus, the progenitor of dinosaurs. UFO sighting. In 1965, at the Argentine naval base in Antarctica in the middle of the night, almost 20 people looked up at the sky in surprise. At an altitude of 15 to 20 kilometers, they saw a UFO. This mysterious object was a glowing kaleidoscope of greens, reds, yellows, oranges, and whites. The huge ship, more than 85 meters long, seemed heavy and soared confidently in the sky. There were many witnesses to this event since it all lasted a long time. Even earlier, in 1946, the American high jump expedition set off to the icy shores. There is a legend that flying saucers met them on the way, and they say that about 400 sailors and soldiers died in battles with them. The entire expedition ended after 3 months, and all materials became strictly secret. Richard Byrd, the head of the expedition, told about this and ended up in a psychiatric hospital. Mysterious cave. Scientists through Google Maps in Antarctica discovered a mysterious object. It's not just an object, it's a cave hidden under glaciers. Scientists have published a video on YouTube showing the vault of this cave. Some believe that the cave could have been man-made. The video shows an ideal vault, 23 meters high and 76 meters wide. Scientists drew attention to the strange paths and steps at the entrance to the cave, which gives reason to think about their artificial origin. Others think it's a secret UFO facility or a top-secret military base. There are those who think that these are the remains of the architecture of an ancient civilization. Official science is still silent, but everyone agrees. With global warming, Antarctica has many more secrets to discover. Scientists melt 46,000-year-old ice. Scientists have made a stunning discovery by reviving an ancient nematode that was frozen in Siberia for 46,000 years. The microscopic worm, identified as Panagrolamus colimensis, was found 40 meters underground where it had been dormant since the earliest cave paintings were made. After being thawed, the nematode came back to life, began feeding on bacteria in the lab and reproducing asexually, then leaving a new generation for further study. The nematode's ability to survive in extreme conditions rivals better-known species such as Caenorhabditis elegans, which can survive desiccation and produce a sugar called trehalose that protects against dehydration. This discovery could open up new horizons in understanding biological processes of survival and evolution, suggesting that species can survive in extreme conditions for thousands of years and even revive after a long period of dormancy. If scientists can implant the abilities of these living creatures into humans, we will actually be able to travel in time, since humanity will be able to put people into a state of suspended animation and awaken them in the distant future after tens, hundreds, or thousands of years. Tarim mummies. In the Tarim Desert, located in western China, perfectly preserved mummies have been discovered that are over 4,000 years old. These mummies are striking in their condition, preserved due to the dry climate of the region. Chinese archaeologists cannot believe this because they have Caucasian features, which raises many questions about the migrations and cultural exchanges of ancient peoples. Research has shown that the mummies have high cheekbones, deep eye sockets, and blonde hair, which is not typical for the population of this region. These findings cast doubt on previous theories that the Tarim Basin was inhabited exclusively by Asian peoples. DNA tests have confirmed the mixed origins of these people, pointing to complex migration routes connecting east and west already in ancient times. The mummies were found in a variety of burials, many of which contained rich funerary gifts including textiles, weapons, and household items. The Tarim Desert mummies continue to be studied by scientists from all over the world, revealing more and more new aspects of ancient history. They are an archaeological phenomenon. The Witch, the Dwarf, and the Magician's Pyramid. The ancient Mayan city of Uxmal, located on the Yucatan Peninsula, is a place where unique architecture and ancient mythology merge with otherworldly landscapes. One of the most mysterious structures here is the Pyramid of the Magician, a structure amazing in its shape and significance. This place is surrounded by magical legends, in particular the story of a dwarf and a witch who supposedly built the magician's pyramid. This legend exists only in oral retellings of local residents since it is not recorded in ancient texts. Variations of this story are passed down from generation to generation. The story was first recorded in the 19th century by John Lloyd Stephens, an American explorer who published his observations in a book about his travels to the Yucatan. One day he heard this story from a local resident. According to legend, in the place where the pyramid now stands, there was once the hut of an old witch who wanted to have an heir. Using magic, she created a childlike creature from the egg. This baby quickly grew to the size of an adult, but remained the size of a dwarf. The witch was proud of him and dreamed that he would become a great ruler. On her instructions, the dwarf challenged the local king to a duel. The test proposed by the king seemed impossible, but each time the dwarf coped with them using the cunning and magic of his mother. For example, the king demanded that the dwarf build a house taller than all the buildings in the city in one night. By morning, a majestic pyramid rose on the site of the old hut. The final test was that the king and the dwarf had to break wood over each other's heads. The witch prepared her son by placing a protective spell on his head. The king was unable to harm the dwarf, and he in turn took the king's life with his blow. So the dwarf became the new ruler of Uxmal. In some versions of this legend, the dwarf is the god Itzamama, who used magic to build the pyramid. These stories may have emerged as an attempt to explain the unusual shape and structure of the Pyramid of the Magician, which archaeologists believe took 3 centuries to build. Elongated skulls. Archaeologists have made a stunning discovery in Antarctica, the remains of people with long skulls. Even more interesting, similar elongated skulls have been found all over the world. In Peru, Egypt, Russia, the USA, and even in Europe. Scientists have found that people deliberately deform the skulls of their children right from birth. But here's the mystery. It was done by different peoples who lived at great distances from each other, perhaps even without mutual contact. And the question why remains open. Maybe this is how people tried to get superpowers or emphasize their status, or wanted to be like the gods. Maybe it was a trend, like tattoos or piercings today. It's creepy, but even today in some tribes of South America, this tradition still exists. Ruins of ancient civilizations. Captain Robert Scott and his crew come face to face with an ancient civilization behind the ice wall of Antarctica. They found traces of antediluvian time and even filmed them. Can you imagine what it is like to see the ruins of an ancient city, pyramids, columns, and statues in the heart of Antarctica? This ancient civilization may even be older than the ones we learn about in school. Confirmation of this is a map of 1531 where Antarctica is shown without ice. Strange, because according to our history, Antarctica was discovered only in 1820 by Russian explorers. Did you know that the North and South Poles have reversed 171 times in the last 76 million years? And the last time it happened was about 12,000 years ago. This explains why all the secrets of Antarctica today are hidden under a kilometer layer of ice. According to recent reports, under Antarctica there is a huge network of passages and tunnels at a depth of 4 kilometers. Gold spewing volcano. Mount Erebus, the largest volcano in Antarctica, literally spits the finest crystals of metallic gold into the air. Gold from 0.1 to 20 micrometers is found in volcanic gases and up to 60 micrometers in the snow nearby. Interestingly, although other volcanoes are known for their gold emissions, Mount Erebus is the only one that ejects gold in metallic form. Before you decide to go gold prospecting in Antarctica, let me disappoint you. Mount Erebus only releases about 80 grams of gold per day. It's more of a geological curiosity than anything else. However, knowing how volcanoes can concentrate the metal could help geologists find gold deposits better. Martian connection. This mineral was first discovered by the Opportunity rover on Mars in 2004. The mineral jarosite, which has been known on Earth since 1872, was considered ours, earthly. It requires water, iron, sulfate, potassium, and acidity to form. everything found on Earth but rare on Mars. However, it turned out that there is much more jarosite on Mars than here. So the question arose, how could it be formed there in such a large amount? The particles found on Earth were cracked and lacked sharp edges, suggesting they formed and broke apart inside the ice. And here comes the most interesting part. Scientists suggest that on Mars, jarosite is formed in the same way. Life under ice. While collecting samples under the ice shelf, scientists discovered living organisms under a layer of ice over 900 meters. When the scientists lowered the camera down into the icy abyss, they found nothing but one stone. But to their surprise, living creatures were found on this stone, different types of sea sponges and strange filamentous organisms, which they assumed were hydroids, a type of invertebrates. Just imagine this, life under hundreds of meters of ice in conditions that we assumed were completely incompatible with life. But here they are, these little creatures, questioning everything we know about life on Earth. We can only guess how long these organisms have been here and how often they feed. Once a year, once a decade, or maybe once a century. This ecosystem can be incredibly ancient. Antarctic sponges, for example, can live for thousands of years. Expedition of Admiral Byrd. It all started with books written by Amedeo Giannini and Raymond Bernard discussing the unusual theory that the Earth is actually hollow. They claimed that Byrd, during his expeditions, did not just fly through the poles, but fell into giant cavities inside the planet. Ufologist Ray Palmer further fueled interest in this theory by presenting it in his UFO magazine. He caused a real storm of discussion. Giannini, Bernard, and Palmer claimed that Byrd claimed to have penetrated 3,700 kilometers into the Earth through the South Pole, and before his death he even hinted at the existence of a magical continent in the sky, the edge of eternal mystery beyond the poles, land of rains and rainbows, home of a mythical lost civilization. These references confirm their version. The Earth is shaped like a donut, with huge depressions at the poles, inside of which there are uncharted lands and perhaps even secret UFO bases. Global warming is just beginning to reveal the mysteries of the icy continent. With the melting of glaciers, more and more mystical finds will be discovered. It seemed that history could not be rewritten, but what would happen if the search movement began in full force? Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Watch this video too about the findings frightening scientists around the world. See you on KirTop.